Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Stacy and I'm a NASM certified personal trainer. I have some beginner workout guides on my website, which I'll have linked below. I'm also a dream vacations travel advisor, so I can help you plan as much or as little of your dream vacation as you would like. My travel website is linked below, as well as my free quote form. And every single week I post a travel, Disney, and week of workouts video. And if you're interested in any of those things, please consider subscribing to my channel. My goal is to reach 500 subscribers by the end of April, so please like my video and comment, engage, so that YouTube can show it to more people so I can reach that goal. And today's video is going to be my bucket list travel cruise destinations. So in my life, I have not had that many opportunities to travel. I've been on several cruises, I've been to Greece, and I've been to many states throughout the US, but I haven't had much opportunities to travel, and I've decided that that's going to be a priority for me going forward. And here are my bucket list destinations that I'd like to go on. I'd be happy with taking these cruises and ending my life satisfied with the places I've been. So because there's so many places that I want to go, that I have severe decision fatigue when it comes to deciding a trip. So doing a cruise to these destinations will be a great way to just select a predetermined itinerary and be able to see different places all in one trip really easily, which is one of the reasons why I love cruising. And also, a lot of the times there's so much included on a cruise that it's just an easy way to have like an almost all-inclusive feel. You can get on the ship and not have to worry about a whole lot of things. So the first place that I'd like to take a cruise is Northern Europe. Europe has so much history and culture, and the northern portion of Europe is on my bucket list because it's a little different than like a Mediterranean itinerary, and there's a lot of historical sites like the fjords, coastlines, other historical cities, and cultural experiences. And if you're sailing north enough, there's possibility you could see the northern lights on the cruise ship as well. Some of the common countries on a northern European cruise include Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, Germany, Finland, Norway, Scotland, and England. And there is a huge list of a bunch of different ports that are very common. I'll kind of list them here on the screen. Some of the most common ports is Hamburg, Germany, Reykjavik, Iceland, Stockholm, Sweden, and Copenhagen, Denmark. And then there's oftentimes cruise lines will have their repositioning itinerary. So like their ship will have itineraries in the Caribbean for a certain amount of time and then reposition over to Europe for a certain amount of time. So during the time where they move from one side to the other, they'll have a cruise that takes guests along with it. So it typically would be like a transatlantic cruise that takes you from, say, Florida all the way up to like Northern Europe to then start a Northern Europe itinerary. So you're at sea for several days and then you hit a bunch of different ports, and then it's a one-way cruise. So you would start in, say, Florida and end in Europe and then fly back, if you're American, to the US from Europe, instead of a round trip cruise where you are starting in one port and then ending in that same port. And then some cruise lines itineraries, some ship itineraries, all of them are going to be different. A lot of them are very similar. Some of them can be one ways, some of them could be a round trip. A lot of the times these are going to be longer itineraries if they're round trip. And yeah, so some of the places that I would like to see is like Iceland and Norway. I would like to do a British Isles cruise as well. That would be a lot of fun. And then what I want to do is take inspiration from the places that I visit on a Northern European cruise and probably go on another one and go to different countries that I didn't go to the first time. And then maybe plan a multi-city, multi-country trip and just go on a more planned land trip than a cruise. And then my next cruise destination is an Alaskan cruise. I have been to Alaska. I went to Anchorage for a wedding and it was really cool. We went in August, so it was a warm-ish, like weather was perfect. There wasn't a day that it was like really, really cold, and we really enjoyed our time. We got to do some hikes and see the area quite a bit. It was a lot of fun. And we drove back and forth from a neighboring town, which I don't remember the name of. It was like 30 minutes outside of Anchorage. And so we got to see the green and all it was really fun. So I would love to go back to Alaska and go on an Alaskan cruise. So there are a couple of different types of Alaskan cruises. There's the Inside Passage, and then there is one that just kind of goes along the Gulf of Alaska, and typically a lot of cruises start out of Vancouver or Seattle and end close to where like Whittier, which is the port for Anchorage. It's like we actually went to Whittier when we were in Anchorage and we didn't realize it was a cruise port and there was no cruise ships there, so nothing was open, and it's really determined by tourism, by their cruise ships. So when there's no cruise ship in port, then not much was open. But it was really cool to see. It was a lot of fun to just go there. So the Inside Passage typically starts from Vancouver or Seattle, depending on the cruise line, depending on the itinerary, and then it goes up through this little passage, I guess, of Alaska, usually getting to ports. Sometimes it'll stop in Victoria, and sometimes you'll have Ketchikan, Juneau, Haines, Skagway, and then all the way back to that. Typically those itineraries are a closed loop cruise, and that would be really cool. A lot of times there's going to be a one-way itinerary where you're starting in Seattle or Vancouver and ending in Anchorage, and then so you have to fly to the starting port and then fly home from the ending port. What you could do is do back-to-back cruises and take a whole nother week, because these are usually 7-day itineraries, a whole nother week and just go back the other way so that you can end and start at the same port. That's kind of what I want to do. And then you'd hit all the same ports twice, which is actually pretty cool, because I feel like I think we were there for like a week, and just the time we were there for a wedding, so obviously we did the bits of wedding things, but the time we were there just wasn't enough to really do enough to really get a really good sense of Alaska. And so when you're just getting to these ports for hours at a time, there's still a lot more you can see. So doing a like 14-day back-to-back cruise, it would be really cool, because then you can see all of these places and plan different things 2 different times. And then there are some cruises that will be a closed loop cruise from San Francisco, but that just means you have more sea days at the beginning and end of that and less actual port days. And typically it's like a 7 to 10 night round trip sailing. Princess Cruise Line is really known for their Alaskan sailings, and the one that I think sounds really, really cool that they typically do is they start in like Vancouver and they go to Ketchikan, goes through the Icy Strait Point to Juneau, Skagway, through that Inside Passage, and then goes to Hubbard Glacier and goes to Anchorage. And then from there you can plan to stay in Anchorage longer and do different things. They have a train up to Fairbanks and a lot of fun things that you could do from there. So I think that sounds like the best of both worlds. You get the Inside Passage trip and then gets you up to Anchorage and maybe spend time in Anchorage as a land and sea kind of trip, or do, like I said, going from the like back-to-back cruises, so you can start and end at the same port. I would love to do a Disney Alaskan cruise just because it's Disney. I love Disney. A lot of the characters on like a glacier day, I don't know exactly all of the itineraries because Disney does a very short window of time in which they have sailings available for Alaska, but they will have the characters on deck, so like on the pool deck, in very unique outfits just for the Alaska sailings, and I think that's pretty cool. And then all throughout like the cruise, they'll have hot chocolate just stations all over the place. When you come back on the ship, on the deck, when they have the characters for the this might actually be part of the Inside Passage sailings, that now that I think about it, but that would be cool. But of course it would not be anything on my list if I don't list a Disney ship. So for sure I want to do a Princess cruise through to Alaska and then a Disney cruise. That would be a lot of fun, even if they are the same ports, because just a little bit we spent in Anchorage, there's just a lot more to see, a lot more hikes. I like hiking, so doing the active shore excursions just sounds like a lot of fun, especially in these types of places where there's a lot of active like hikes, and you could even do kayaking, and there's just different types of shore excursions available in these areas in Alaska and all these ports. And plus the ports themselves have a lot of history and they're just really cool looking, and it would be a lot of fun to just walk around and see them. Be different than a Caribbean cruise. That's all I've been on is Caribbean cruises in Mexico, in a like Baja Mexico cruise. So the next one is a Greek Isle cruise. So I've been to Greece. I went to Santorini for a yoga retreat with Yoga by Candace. Oh, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, and that was a lot of fun. That was my first solo trip, which I'm gonna do a whole video kind of describing how that went versus what I would do differently the next time I might do a solo travel. And it was a lot of fun. I pretty much saw the entire island, and I would love to go back to Greece, but decision fatigue right now is just the thing, unfortunately. But doing a cruise, you get a predetermined itinerary, and I just have to get, flights over there and get on the ship and just let the vacation go. I love cruises for that reason. So oftentimes on Greek cruises, you can also do different types of excursions, like touring archaeological, historical sites, that kind of thing that you wouldn't see in other ports, because you get a lot of that Greek culture and history and that stuff that is more available. And then they have their own culture and cuisine, like a Greek gyro compared to anywhere else is not the same. So like I've even made gyros at home. It's still not the same, but as with any culture, their native, like local cuisine is always better, of course. So some of the common ports that Greek Isle cruises go to is, I'm probably going to say some of these really horribly, but I'm going to try. Kefalonia, Crete, Corfu, Mykonos, Rhodes, Santorini, Athens, and Patmos. So some Greek cruises can be shorter and only be like a 3 and 4 night cruises, and you see a handful of different islands. So that would be a cool trip to take for a land and sea kind of trip, where you have several days on land, and maybe you do pick an island and you stay there for a couple of days, and then you take your cruise, and or vice versa, you take your cruise first and then you have a land stay at one of the islands. Or some cruises will start in Italy and you hit Rome and Naples, and then you sail over around the Greek Isles and back. And typically those are longer cruises, but that could be an option too, to see a couple of different, like you see Italy and Greece at the same time. And my last cruise destination is an Asian cruise. So Asia has so much history and culture, and of course this has to make the list. And there's just so much more to explore, but the decision fatigue of like where to start is what gets me. Like I like hit a wall trying to like think, even like just fantasize about planning any of these trips, let alone like the Asian cruise or an Asian trip, because I want to go to China, I want to go to Tokyo, I want to go to Malaysia. I want to see all of those areas and get a sense of like the culture and just experience different things. Some of the common cruise ports is Singapore, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Tokyo, Shanghai, Busan, Osaka, Ho Chi Minh City. I hope I'm probably saying some of these really wrong. Chiang Mai, Halong Bay, Incheon, South Korea, Manila, I think that's very bad. Philippines, Bali, Indonesia, Kahlua Lumpur, Malaysia. If I say any of those wrong, I'm sorry. Not sure how they are said, but feel free to let me know in the comments. Yeah, an Asian cruise can be a lot of like a really good start to plan like a multi-country city type trip over in Asia, and some examples are ones that like go to almost all of those ports. It goes through several of the Chinese ports, loops around to Japan, and just this really long itinerary, which would be really cool. You can see all of the places over in Asia that have cruise ports. And then there's also Japan only itineraries. And then of course, my list wouldn't be complete without mentioning wanting to go on one of the newest Disney cruise ships, the Disney Adventure, that's going to be setting sail out of Singapore. And it's going to be unique that it is only sea days, so you're only going to be sailing on the ship. So the ship itself is the destination. And they're only doing like 3 and 4 night itineraries, which means that it'll make it easy to do a land and sea trip. Just depending on what you want to do, maybe go to Disneyland Tokyo and like you fly from whatever the nearest airport to Singapore is, and then go to Tokyo and go to Disneyland, or Disneyland Shanghai or Hong Kong in China, and do a multi-Disney trip over. Like that sounds like a lot of fun to me. But yeah, travel is definitely one of my favorite things, and with travel being a priority in my life and wanting to just experience different cultures and get out in the world, right now cruising is like the best option to get past the decision fatigue of where do I want to go first. And these are my bucket list cruise destinations. I want to go to Northern Europe, a Greek Isle cruise, Alaska cruise, and an Asian cruise. And I feel like I could be satisfied after doing all of those trips. And then from there, I could decide where I want to return to, or if I just want to do another cruise after that. So that is going to conclude this video. If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing to my channel for more travel, Disney, and a week of workouts every single week. My goal is to reach 500 subscribers by the end of April, and I'm about a quarter of the way there. Please like my video so that YouTube can show it to other people so I can achieve that goal. Comment your bucket list cruise destination, and thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.